What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Bimmer barn. Today we're going to be retrofitting paddles onto my 335i converted wagon. Now, my car was previously a 325xi and it had the non-M Sport interior with no paddles, and so it's lacking the wiring in order to make the paddles work. So I'm going to show you guys exactly what to do if you're in the same situation as me, and without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into the video. Now the problem is that the paddles don't work because this car never came equipped with paddles originally. So it's missing the two wires that run a signal basically into the dashboard, and they tap into the shifter mechanism, which sends a signal to the DME, which tells the car to shift up or down, because the DME of course controls the transmission. So we need to disassemble the steering column here and repin the connector that would give us the signal and tap it into the steering column here. So what we're gonna do is, to get those wires, we're actually gonna go to the 335i parts car, grab those pins as well as much wire as we can, and then we'll go ahead and get right to work. Hey buddy. Now I did already take a look here inside the 335 to confirm, and I'm going to go ahead and put a link in the description as well to a really handy forum post about doing this retrofit. But they basically tell you that you need to find the two wires that send the signal for the transmission up and down, and that's going to be this yellow wire with black stripe and yellow wire with white stripe. They look a little funny here, and they come off of this larger connector, the one that uses this style connector right here. So you go ahead and remove the main component of it, and then you can see the wires that trace in, and I think it's pins 2 and 4. So we're gonna go ahead and remove the pins out of here and then cut them as far up into the dash as possible. And I did try to reach my hands behind there, but it clearly goes into the main dashboard harness. So here is the connector for the transmission, and you'll see the two pins in the middle are transmission up and down signal, and that one goes into the main harness here that runs into the dashboard as well. So instead of removing our dashboard to install the two wires into the harness, we're actually just gonna go ahead and route them directly to this pin right here. Now, since we're going to be removing the airbag and the steering wheel, we're going to have to go ahead and disconnect the battery. So there's just a 10mm right here. And now we are safe to work on the car. Now, I already have the center console mostly torn apart here. And that's because I'm planning on doing the iDrive retrofit in this car. So in order to do that, there's the main harness here that runs under the center console. And that's where we're gonna have to splice into to add our iDrive knob. So I'm just kind of staying prepared for that. I'm not gonna put everything back together because I know I'm gonna have to take it apart. And so that makes it really easy for us today to remove the console again to make a good tuck job out of the wiring harness that we're gonna have to add. Now with that out of the way, we can get a better look at the wire harness. Like I said, it's gonna be these pins right here. It's gonna be the purple and the blue. We're gonna go ahead and try to splice in. I think right here is a good area. Put both of our splices. That way when we reassemble the console, you're not gonna see it. Shouldn't interfere with anything, and we'll have a nice clean install. So next up, let's move to the steering column. Now, another thing that I need to change that some of you guys actually pointed out was the steering angle sensor clock spring setup right here with the turn signal stalks, because the E90 does not have the rear wiper function like the E91 stock does. So while we're here, we're also going to be replacing that because I forgot to do that. Now here is that connector I was showing you earlier. Disengage the latch. And if we just disengage this little lock on the side here, we should be able to slide out the cartridge with all the pins. And there we go. So, interesting. Well, it looks like I have the wires already installed here. All right, well, surprise, surprise. It looks like this connector already has the wires, and it's the correct colors too for the paddles. So it looks like, I'm not sure what these wires go to, but they definitely go into the main chassis harness. But for some reason, I was testing the paddles before and they weren't working. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do like the instructions say on the forums, and I'm gonna go ahead and just wrap off the pins. Maybe we can reuse them in the future, but put them aside, remove them from here, and we're gonna start over as if this didn't have any pins. We're gonna add in our 2 wires and then route them under the dashboard here, and then over here and splice them in, just as if we're just doing a fresh paddle retrofit. And I think for sure once we do that, the paddles are gonna be guaranteed to work. And then later we can look into what these original wires are, and we'll maybe be able to reuse them in the future. So like I said, let's go ahead and remove these pins and then get to work on wiring the new ones. So we've got the wires installed in the connector here and routed behind, and remember we'll have covers on this so you can't see it. Then we need to route it underneath the dash right here, and it looks like it's not going to be long enough to reach to this corner here where I want to splice it in. So I'm going to grab some automotive grade wire and we'll just lengthen both of these to make it to this corner, and then we'll splice into the harness. All right, so we're gonna test these out immediately, and if they work correctly, we should be able to shift the car without even putting this into the sport mode. And you know what? Oh my goodness. All right, well, it works, but unfortunately, they do not work in the right direction. So we'll go ahead and put this in sport mode, and it looks like when I tap forward, it goes up a gear, and when I tap backwards, it goes down a gear, which is opposite of the factory programming. So I'm not really a fan of that configuration. So all we have to do is swap the wires around here, or we can actually depin from here and swap the wires around and then have that functionality 100%. So we'll do that in a second. Let's go ahead and get the car back to the shop. All right, we've got take 2, swap the wires around, so now we should have the correct orientation of the buttons. Oh yeah, and down. Oh, too far down. Don't want to money shift. I don't think you can money shift in automatic, but let's go ahead and put it in sport mode as well. Drive sport, number 3, number 2, and then we'll try the left paddle as well, number 3. And number 2. All right, finally we've got working paddles on old girl. So that's going to conclude our video for today, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching, and hopefully you learned something about retrofitting the paddles onto your car that did not come with paddles. If you have any extra tips about this retrofit that you want to share, be sure to leave a comment down below. Otherwise, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and as always, I hope everyone has an amazing day. We'll see you next time.